My name is Yunus. I'm a master graduate and a teacher. I have decided to start putting some YouTube videos about statistics A level. The reason why I decided to start with the statistics is because while I was teaching to some of year 12, many of them they were worried a lot about it, even if it's too easy. So the way how I'm going to do it is I'm going to split it to year 12 and year 13, and I want to tell you that I'm using Dr. Frost PowerPoints. I changed a bit of the slides, but basically it's nearly the same. I'm going to start with chapter 1, data collection. So the part 1 or year 1 is split to experimental and theoretical part. The experimental is have about 4 chapters, which is data collection, measures of location and spread, representation of data, correlation, which is between experimental and theoretical. Then we have the probability, statistical distribution, and hypothesis testing. Today we're going to start with data collection. So basically method of sampling, type of data, population versus samples and stuff like that. That's the chapter overview. So we'll have population and samples, random sampling, non-random sampling, types of data, and a bit of Excel large data set. Just introduce it. That now, if we think about the population as the whole set of item of interest, a sample is part of it or subset of it. So those are just some of the definitions we need to know about. Also, if you like, I will be happy to share with you 100% sheet which I use to put all the definitions and the words that are new for the topic for each chapter. I can share this with you. So basically, population is a whole set of items of interest. Now I want to say about this, many students think or assume that population is always to do with humans. It's not the case. It's any item of interest. It can be anything. Okay, and sample is a subset or a part of the whole population. Okay, we also we need to know something. For example, if we're talking about sampling unit, it is each individual. So for example, this is a sampling unit, this is a sampling unit. So there are many sampling units in a population or in a sample. And sampling frame is a list formed by named and numbered sampling units of population. For example, we have this population, we have names and numbers. For example, we call this one 100100203 and so on. We have a list of numbers that is called sampling frame. Okay, so those are just vocabulary that we use in this chapter or in statistics in general. Those are there. Yeah, so population and samples. So if we talking about the entire population, the data collected from the entire population is called census. We know it from what we do. So the advantages and disadvantages of census and sample, those are things that we need to know. You don't need to know them by heart, but they are like common sense. So the advantages of the census, because we take the whole population, it will be more accurate to a sample, so it's more accurate. It will take longer to carry out a census because you're taking the whole population, and also it will be expensive to do so. So time consuming and also large volume of data process. While sample, it's quick, cheap, less data to process, while the disadvantage is not very accurate as the census. That is an example for you to do. So now pause it, please, and try those 2 questions. And you check your answers now. If you're not sure about one answer, just write me a comment, please, and I'll answer it as soon as I can. Another example. Okay, pause it. It's basically what. Then check your answers. When I'm teaching statistics, stats 1 and data collection, I ask all students to copy that in their books and fill it while they are while we are doing the tasks or the lesson. So those are the things that we basically need to know. Okay, it's not something that we need to know by heart, but it's like advantages and disadvantages are common sense. Now how it is carried out is something that we need to remember, especially for if we're talking about systematic, stratified, or quota. So I will find out how. So there are random sampling. There are 3 types of random sampling that we are doing here, which are simple random sampling, systematic, and stratified. While non-random sampling, we have here 2, which is quota and opportunity sampling. So random sampling is, so we usually, it's the easiest one to use, and we want each item or sampling frame to have equal chance of being chosen, so to avoid bias. Okay, so this is known as random sampling. Basically, you just have a population and you pick some sampling units from like from the start, in the middle, side, but without any system, without any systematic method. It's just you pick something. Okay, so how is it carried out, and the advantages, disadvantages. So what is it? It's so basically you need to know that each sample has an equal chance of being selected, each sampling unit, and the method is, so each sampling unit will get a number, and then we'll have a sampling frame. From this sampling frame we use a number generator and we pick. So so in sampling frame, each item is identified by a number, and we use a random number generator. I can show you later, if you like, how to pick a random number using a calculator. So the advantages we said about them is bias-free, easy. Each number has a non-equal chance of being selected. Disadvantages is not suitable when we have a large population, and also a sampling frame needed. As we said, sampling frame is a list formed by named or numbered sampling units of a population. This is an example. So when we show, that's an example of an exam paper. So if it's 3 marks, that means it should take you about 2.5 minutes, Okay, pause it and check your answer. A hint: if you have for example 3 marks, you need to give 3 things. Okay, we move on to systematic sampling, which is also a random sampling. Systematic sampling, its name tells you what is it. We're using a system. Okay, to use this system, we pick every case, and K is the population size, capital N, divided by the sample size, lowercase n. So for example, if we have 1,000 items, population of 1,000, and the sample that we want to pick from is, let's say, 50. So what we do 1,000 divided by 50, which is 20, and we pick every 20 years, starting from 0 or 1. Okay, depend on the numbers that we put for the in the sampling frame. So if we start from, for example, from 0, we pick the 0th item or sampling unit, and then we pick the 20th, and then the 40th, and so on. Okay, the advantage: simple, quick, suitable for large sample or population. Disadvantages: it's not suitable. We need a sampling frame, obviously, and also can introduce bias if the sampling frame are not random. For example, if the sample is grouped. That is in the bottom. There is an example for you to do. So pause it and try it. Check your answers. Okay. Then we move on to stratified sampling. Stratified means grouped. Strata means group. This is good if we have a population already grouped into stratas. Okay. So, for example, if we are doing any sampling or any statistics in a school, and we have the classes already split to year 10, 11, 12, and 13, so it's already grouped. Or if it's grouped like the boys are usually on their own and the girls are on their own, that's already grouped. That is good to use this stratified sampling. We have in here also something similar to systematic, but we use the opposite. We use the sample. We use the sample size lowercase n divided by the population size n. So, for example, if we think about this population, and we think about the red sampling sampling units. So what we have the sampling size is we have 5 divided by the population size, which is, so we have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. We have 50. So if we think about this, so we have 5 divided by 50, which is 1/10. And then we pick every 1/10 from each strata. For example, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 20. So from this population we pick 2. Okay. From this population we have 10. We pick 1, and so on. Okay. The advantages. It reflects the population structure, guarantees proportional representation of each group or each strata. The disadvantages is the population must be already set to stratas, already grouped. We don't ask the people or the population to group themselves before we do this. If it's already grouped, and selection within each stratum suffer from same disadvantage and as all the other simple random sampling. Okay, that's obvious. That is stratified sampling. That is an example. So be careful if it says 7 marks. So it means like we have 7 parts of the answers. So when I did this in the classroom, I got some students who gave me straight the answer, which was great. But if I was somebody that marked the answer, probably they will get just 2 or 3 marks out of 7 because they did not do all the steps. So that's one of the things that you need to be careful when you're doing A-level statistics exams. Those are the answers. As you can see, there are some method marks, some answers marks, and so on. If you're not sure about any of the answers, just write a comment. Another example, pause, check your answer. We're going to move on to non-random sampling. So the non-random sampling we are doing in A-level, we are going to talk about 2 of them. So if we consider the following scenario, you wish to conduct a survey in the UK on whether being left-handed affect IQ, and we need to choose people to assess. Because we cannot take the whole population of the UK, because it will be not really represented the left-handed, because as you can tell, the percentage is very low of left-handed. And why would the random sampling be problematic? Because we don't know the sampling frame. First of all, we don't know it. We don't have a list of all left-handed people in the UK. That's why we will use quota sampling, for example. As with stratified sampling, quota sampling divides population into groups according to characteristics of interest, then determine the size of each group in sample to reflect proportion within the population. So quota sampling is similar to stratified, but it is non-random. Okay. But instead of random sampling with each group, we actively choose people with each group via suitable means, for example, advertising, until the quota for each group is filled. A variant of this is opportunity sampling. You can read that. So now we need to know how it is carried out and the advantages, disadvantages. The quota sampling, we said it's similar to stratified. So the population is divided into groups according to characteristics. A quota of items, of number of items of people in each group is set to try and reflect the group's population in the whole population. For example, interviewer select the actual sampling unit. The advantages is allows small sample to still be represented or representative of population. No sampling frame required. Quick, easy, inexpensive, allowed for easy comparison between different group in population. Disadvantage: non-random sampling can be or can introduce bias. Population must be divided already in groups, and so on. Well, opportunity sometimes is also called convenience sampling. So sample taken from people who are available at the time of study, who meets criteria. Okay, people are the items, the sampling units that are present, available at the time of the study and meets the criteria. The advantages: easy to carry out, inexpensive. The disadvantages are similar, unlikely to provide a representative sample, highly dependent on individual or researcher, depend on the person who's choosing. That is an example for you to try. So pause it now. It's 8 marks, so it needs to take you about 7 minutes or 6.5 minutes. And now check your answers. Pause it and check your answers. Another one. Pause it. Check your answers. Okay, we are going to move on to types of data. It's just very quick. Types of data. There are qualitative or categorical, which are the non-numerical values, for example, colors and others, and quantitative, which is numerical values. The quantitative is split to discrete data. For example, those discrete data can only take specific values. For example, the number of children. It cannot be 4.7 or anything like that. It can be just 4 or 5 or 6. Or shoe size. It can be just 5 or 5.5 or 6 or 6.5. It cannot be 5.4, for example, or 0.3. There are discrete and there are continuous. Continuous can take any decimal value possible with specific range. Okay, so thus you need to know the type of data. That is an example here. Example, we just need to know what is if we have in groups those group data, we need to know what is the midpoint, how to find it and stuff like that. This one is called the lowercase boundary, uppercase boundary, the midpoint. There are two methods, or at least two methods, to find it out. There are people who do 70 plus 20 divided by 2, which is 45, which is right. There are people who do 70 minus 20, which is 50, and divide by 2, and then you need to add it to 20 or subtract it from 70. I prefer the second method. You'll find out why because in statistics we'll use something similar to that when we're talking about interpolation. This is not a class interval. The class width is the difference between the upper class boundary and the lower class boundary. Okay, those are just things like you need to know. Example, just need to know if it's qualitative or quantitative. Pause it. Check your answers. Okay, this is an example. You just choose between the simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, quota sampling, or opportunity sampling. They give you 3 examples, and then you see which one is suitable. Sometimes there are more than one suitable, so just bear in mind that sometimes you can have more than one that is suitable. But usually, if it's, for example, you need to decide first, is it going to be a random or non-random? If it's a random, if it's already in grouped, then 99% is stratified. Okay, so, and if it's non-random, you just need to, again, if it's grouped, that is quota sampling. If it's not, then it can be opportunity. Okay, so those are the answers. Pause it and read them. If you're not sure, write me a comment. We're going to move to large data set. I'm just going to, this is nothing really to explain. You just need to, if you like this link, it's online. You can go into it, and it's basically talking about the weather in the UK and in the world. So, and what we need to know is how to find information from this large data set. You need to be familiar with, for example, those places. Where is Jacksonville? You need to know it's in America, USA, Beijing. You need to know, like, Perth is in Australia, and you need to know where are those places in the UK. So the 5 locations in the UK, weather stations in the UK, and 3 international weather stations. You need to know if it's, for example, some information, for example, in Perth, if you're talking about the weather and then you think about August and you say it's raining or is it colder than in September, then you need to know that in Australia, if we have in the UK, for example, if we have summer, they have winter and other way around. Those are the information that you can get from the large data set. Those are things that you need to know. The mean temperature, for example, you need to know that the temperature unit is degrees Celsius and stuff like that. Those are the things that you need to know. Just pause it and read those. Okay, examples again. That's done. So if you have any questions, please write me any comment. Next thing, we are going to do the measure of locations and spread. Thank you for watching. Any comment, please, or anything, please just write it in the bottom. Please subscribe for more videos and share this video with your friends and other A-level students. Thank you. Bye.